Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. Chris Conran claps back at Nick Viall, and we are going to cover this story. It's Christmas in July, baby. The gift that keeps on giving. Unbelievable playlist happening here. We got 8 videos. This all started by Katie Thurston on her TikTok Live saying she's blocked Nick. It was a total of 40 seconds. Nick and Natalie, his girlfriend, respond with a 20-plus minute convo on their podcast exposing Katie's text message, which had nothing to do with why Katie blocked him in the first place. And then Grocery Store Joe on Clickbait does his part in delivering the company line North Korean militia military propagandist radio. And then after that, there's just one thing after another where people are fed up at the bullshit that is happening out there. And the story continues as we look back to last year on Bachelor in Paradise when Alana and Chris Conran were forced off the beach by Riley and Grocery Store Joe. So the story keeps on going. We're going to get into it right now. Here's what's going to be important for you guys. Here's what's going to be important. You got to stick around for the end of this conversation. There's 3 parts I'm going to share with you with regards to what went down on Reality Steve's podcast with Chris Conran. As you guys know, it's an hour-long podcast. I support you guys listening to the full thing. I'm going to play a percentage of it, just a small snippet to catch you guys up, but go listen to the full conversation because within it, Chris Conran talks about being bullied. He goes, we're bullied. We're bullied off the beach. He has no idea why Grocery Store Joe and Riley kicked him off the beach. He says it's because he got the hottest women, which is Atlanta, like Atlanta, but Atlanta, and they're still together. It's been a year, so clearly they have a good connection. He didn't think his response on Bachelor in Paradise would be as bad as it was, but then in response to that, Nick called him a bunch of nobodies, him and Chasen. So we're going to get into all that. Let's just play this first clip, and then I want to tell you this. Atlanta, this past week, said that she listened to the phone call between Nick and Chris, and it wasn't good. It didn't go well. And then at the very end of this video, I'm going to tell you what Chris says went down on that phone call. So it's some good information. Have a listen. Hit the like button. And if you want to join me on the private Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. That's where we are for all the behind-the-scenes bonus content. You can watch me put this whole video together from formulating the thumbnail to all the other things that go into it. And let's get into it right here.
On the September 1st, 2021 edition of the Viall Files, which you can look up on YouTube, Nick was recapping the Bachelor in Paradise season with his guest, Dave Holmes, and Nick had some choice words just recapping the episode where you and Chasen entered. And some of the things
I will share those with you right here.
Chris is on the show because good for him. He, had a cup of coffee on Claire season, gets sent home night 1, but has inserted himself in this what appears to be this kind of...
By the way, Grocery Store Joe, also a night 1 guy.
High school-ish kind of San Diego gang, so he's been part of the drama.
And I would argue the high school part was Grocery Store Joe and Riley, whom I love, kicking them off. Now, Riley, look, I got to say, I like him a lot. They were wrong. They silenced Atlanta. They were like, no, you're not allowed to talk, when they were punishing Chris. It was very Lord of the Flies. Like, had they just been on the beach too long? Did somebody get a sunburn?
And fast forward to, wondering how the fuck did Chris come in here being an absolute nobody? And listen, that matters in Paradise because it's high school. It's a popularity contest.
And so he's not wrong in saying that it is a popularity contest, but calling someone an absolute nobody, that's kind of tough. Hey, shout out to us, Anastasia Williams, said, just joined the Patreon today. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining the Cool Kid Club over here. If it's a popularity contest, the Patreon is where you want to be.
For all these people who are just like, oh, I love you. It's just like, who has the most followers? Who's the most relevant? That plays a role to a certain degree in every one of these relationships. Mm-hmm. And here this Chris, this absolute nobody shows up, and you wonder, how is he completely stealing Jasenia from Ivan, a fan favorite, good-looking, polished guy? Well, it's because they hang out in San Diego. Apparently, Katie's posting pictures of this apparently happy couple, and so that we got bamboozled.
So he's saying they were hanging out. Now, what we already know, I'm not sharing this. Go listen to Reality Steve's full podcast. Is Chris Conran absolutely denying any canoodling? No hooking up with Alana or Jasenia beforehand. So that didn't happen. But they did meet in San Diego. Yeah. San Diego, Nashville, LA, New York, Chicago. These are all hubs of Bachelor people. They all exist in these little forums.
By Jasenia and Chris, because these pictures are floating around on the internet.
Nothing good happens in San Diego.
But that's why you got
to watch out for San Diego.
Props for Chris. That's how he showed up in the show. The
Pray for San
producers
Diego.
are like, yeah, I guess he's just hanging out with Bachelor people. So this is going to feed into the drama.
I was getting a kind of a fluid vibe from Chris and Chase.
All right, thin ice. This is where we get into a little bit of a moral problem here. Now, the guest of Nick's is gay. He's a gay man here, but sort of, I would say it's one thing to question someone's sexual preferences. It's another on like a platform, because there will be some harm done there, right? All right, I'm not taking grounds of moral superiority, but this is the crux of the issue moving forward. I wanted you guys to catch that.
When they showed up, I was like, "Oh, is this?"
I wanted your expert opinion.
Yeah.
My radar isn't always the best.
Yeah, neither is mine. But that one, I was certain that it was like, oh, these are the guys who were sort of bi-curious, and Wells is gonna make him a cocktail, and who knows what may happen next. That was my feeling, because we've been there with women, right?
Yeah.
We haven't been there with men yet. It's a difficult step for TV to take.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, there is some innuendo here to have these questions of like, oh, maybe they had the bisexual storyline of Bachelor in Paris before. Maybe they'll go with that. But they know watching this back that that's not what happens. So it's like you could just gloss over that. Like that's not what it was. They're just two good looking guys. I don't really think there was anything that was done or said to think that there would be some of that fluidity.
But that was kind of why I felt that they were there.
I wasn't sure about Chris. I mean, even from the legs.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Also, smoke show.
So they go into some more things there. And it's like, look, I'm trying my best to make this not a, wow, Dave doesn't like Nick, because that's not what it is. If anything, this is more his guest kind of leaning into this, but they agreed to at least question it, all right? So that leads to the next part here, which was Chris's response. I made a video about this years ago. It's the response that Chris made to Nick Viall's comments. I will then play for you Nick Viall's comments. Chris says, I've noticed rumors of people questioning my sexuality online and on podcasts. Nick Viall. I am not gay. It is disrespectful that society effeminates Asian men and uses gay as a derogatory term. Don't impose sexuality on individuals. And you might say that Nick and his guest Dave Holmes' intention wasn't in a derogatory sense, but you would say that by even them talking about it, they are imposing some sort of like questioning of what his sexuality would be. Let's go back to the podcast.
How that made you feel?
I think that Nick kind of plays into what the public is saying a lot, because I think for him and his podcast and all that, he just wants, obviously when you have a podcast like that, you just want everyone to love you and you want to go with the, majority when it comes to certain things. And obviously there were people like poking fun at my sexuality and stuff like that. And then hearing Nick say that, I thought in my head, dude, are you really going to say this right now?
Yeah.
And likewise, I can't know what it would be like to live in the world that he lives in, where people do question your sexuality as an Asian man. I don't know what that's all about. So we take that with like the grace of watching this and going, okay, let's listen to that. Let's hear that conversation. Wouldn't it have been much better if Nick called Chris to invite him onto his podcast and they could actually like have a good convo? I don't know.
It just upset me because after he did that, I had a lot of people reaching out to me and sending things to me and coming at me. Because to be honest with you, a lot of people really didn't know who I was. Like, let's be real.
You're a nobody.
No one knew who I was. And then Nick talks about it, and people see me on the show, and so it all kind of snowballs. And I posted that tweet just because I was sick of people sending messages to me. And I'm not a big Twitter person whatsoever. I hardly tweet. I hardly use social media in general.
All right, so then he goes into depth more. Again, go listen to the full episode there about the controversy. Now, Alana comments just a few days ago saying this. Someone sent her, they're doing the anonymous questions on Instagram, and someone said, Team Katie or Team Nick? They knew. She goes, Katie. She goes, I only feel like I can weigh in on this because Nick's behavior towards Chris was pretty awful, and I unfortunately had a front row seat to a pretty upsetting phone call. Along with speculating on his sexuality with the intention to humiliate him, it's a big no from me. Now, I don't believe Nick had the intention of humiliating Chris. I personally think, oh, there I am, right over there. Just block my head. ADD. I personally think it was more of a disregard. So again, I'm not here to take any sort of this isn't judge and jury Dave. This isn't ref Dave here. But I would push back and say, look, I don't think Nick was trying to humiliate Chris. I think Nick was just doing his own thing, and the repercussions were some collateral damage that existed there. Here, let's continue the story.
This phone call, is there anything that you want to share about this?
The phone call, baby.
So,
play the phone call.
For me, I'm not someone that just likes to gossip and talk about things, but
Me neither.
after this whole thing happened, Nick gave me a call just because he wanted to speak about it. And his call really wasn't an apology. It was kind of, and I wouldn't say it was like him doubling down on anything, but at the same time, he's kind of like, do you know who that guest was? Kind of being more so just kind of defending everything that was said, and him saying that the host was gay. And so that's why, they can say that kind of stuff on the podcast and all of that. And then saying that
that Dave was?
They got the gay card. They pulled out the gay card. I'm going to comment on that, guys. I'm going to comment on this guy's sexuality because of my sexuality. I don't know, guys.
Dave Holmes?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know that.
I believe he is. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought that I think that's what Nick had told me on the phone.
Sure.
And Nick just saying like, hey, you're going to get hate. Like, you just need to be smart about it. He's like, and you liking tweets of people talking bad about me doesn't look good for you either. Because, people were replying to my tweet saying,
by the way, listen to Reality Steve. He just had a visceral reaction to that. Hold on. Let's go back and just listen to that.
Hate, like, you just need to be smart about it. He's like, and you liking tweets of people talking bad about me doesn't look good for you either. Because, people were replying to my tweet saying, oh, I hate Nick.
Good
like,
Lord.
Don't listen to him and stuff like that. And so I was liking those tweets, and he's like, you just need to really beware because I have people screenshotting and sending me that stuff that you're doing that.
I don't care if you think I'm pimping for Dave.
All right, so anyway, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. But look, I mean, Nick's going, hey, people send me stuff. Your like is an endorsement if you're hating on me too. And it kind of becomes one of those like, well, like, you started it, bro. Like, And I guess the way Nick looks at it, he goes, look, I told you. It was almost like Nick's own God honest truth to what he says. And by the way, I appreciate people who tell you what they're thinking. You know what I mean? It makes it way easier to judge us all versus having to read between the lines. But Nick saying you're a bunch of nobodies, he's not necessarily saying he feels that way. He's speaking on behalf of a collective audience, but obviously it comes off a certain way.
Like, dude, all you had to do was call me and apologize and say like, hey, I'm sorry for doing that and bring that up on the show.
It's almost the same conversation that Katie had, where Katie goes, oh yeah, I've been getting hate. And Nick was like, well, that means people like to, whatever he said. Like Katie said, she got reverse Uno'd, where Nick was like, oh, it must be nice to have a fan base that likes you.
And it would have been water under the bridge. I would have been like, all right, I get it. You make money off of shitting on people, and it makes sense. And I appreciate you calling to apologize to me, but he just didn't even do that and was kind of just like more of a you need to watch your back type thing.
Okay, well, that makes it doubly worse, that the fact that he, again, like you said, didn't double down, but also didn't take the time to say, you know what, maybe that was a little out of line.
So here's my stance. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lean back a little bit. Let me just lean back and tell you the old Dave Neal stance. Nobody asked for it, but I'm gonna deliver. If there was a spectrum, on one side we've got pro Nick, and then on one side we have anti Nick. I'm not leaning on either side. I don't think Nick's intention was to humiliate Chris. I don't think that's the case. And I don't think Chris took it in a way that was completely wrong either. He was offended. This is his livelihood. This is his character. And for all these people that have never seen him before, their first opinion of Chris is that that him and Chasen are a bunch of nobodies. He had a cup of coffee on Claire's season. None of what Nick was saying was untrue in the sense that, well, no one knows who they are. It's a popularity contest. That's all true. But just because something's true doesn't mean that, you can't give someone the benefit of the doubt. Might have been better if Nick was like, look, nobody knows who Chris is because he wasn't on the season long. The fact that Jasenia and Alana like him means there must be something about him. Let's watch this and find out if this guy is worth what they think he is, versus looking at it. And that's just the whole way we look at things, right? There's different sides. There's the cynical way, which is, hey, perfectly fine. And then there's the optimistic way, a little bit more grace, going, all right, Chris, we don't know you, but let's see what got you cast on the show. Let's see where it's almost like you're watching like a new recruit come up to the majors, and you go, all right, we got a new pitcher on the mound. We've never heard of this guy. Let's see why they invested their first round pick in him. He must be pretty good. He's got a splitter. He's looking pretty nice. Good hairline, good jaw, whatever. But instead, they look at it and they go, okay, this nobody's coming to the field to play here. And it's just like, okay, we're all allowed to look at it in whichever way we want. But it's been a year. Chris and Alana are sharing their story. They feel wronged. That was their chance to go on the show. They were out of there before they could even, eat the morning pastries. With regards to how do we wrap up this whole story? Look, it's tough. They're happy. I'm happy they're happy. Nick may or may not respond to Chris here. My guess is he won't. We went pretty far down the rabbit hole. I don't think he wants any extra attention put on him after this little coalition of San Diegans kind of came out and were like, look, this is why we have a problem. You've got Blake Horseman, who has his own issue with the old F-Boy saga. You've got Katie Thurston, who's blocked him. She hasn't really talked about why. She was just this catalyst for a wildfire. Then you've got others like Alana and Chris that share their story. I don't know, folks. Let me know what you guys think. Is this a best of 2022? Maybe not, but we're working on it. If you want to catch this whole playlist, go check it out there. You can see the playlist on my homepage. We're at about 1,000 videos now. We've covered it. Dave, why are you so obsessed with Nick? I'm not. We're following the news, folks. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want, let me go over here. If you guys want, you can go check out my Instagram. I got information on my upcoming stand-up shows at DNeils, and I'm also live on Patreon if you want to hear the nitty-gritty behind the scenes where we really dive into all the information and then figure out what to share. If you want to join the barrel scraping brigade, patreon.com/Dave Neal. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one, everybody. Bye now.